So welcome everybody this evening, or evening for me. I know I've definitely had some study groups where I've said that and people are on the other side of the world and it's not evening. So welcome everybody. Tonight we'll be looking at the Advanced Class Methods Lab. So to get started, I want to see where everybody's at. Are you either before this lab in the curriculum? Are you just sitting on this lab right now working on it, or are you after this lab? Have you finished it already? And you can either shout it out or throw it into the chat.
After.
Okay, so more than half the people here have already completed this lab. Good.
I'm sitting on it now, working on it.
Okay, cool. That is just fine. Let me get my class in here. Since we're all so either past it or on it, I'm going to, for sure, try and be a little bit more interactive than I typically am in these, and get you guys involved, guys and gals involved in, working through some of these and seeing different viewpoints and just getting some input. So don't be surprised if say, hey, what method should we put here? How should we solve this? And look for some input from the group. And if it's completely silent from everybody, I'm probably just going to put you on the spot and call on people by name, which I'd prefer not to do, but we've seen that people just understand and retain, well, science proves that people retain the information better if they don't just sit and listen and watch, but actually do. Even if you don't know the answer, when you sit there and think about it, you will retain the information better. So trying to be a little bit more interactive in all of our study groups across the board. It's hopefully better. And there was some boilerplate code that I deleted as well, I'm realizing, so I'm putting it back in. And then save. Okay, there we go. Do that, and let's open a spec on the side. I like keeping the spec open when I can, because looking at the data that's going to be fed in or what's being expected, a little bit more than just the failure, can give some nice insight sometimes. So the first thing we have is create. So our first error is a no method error. Also, any questions you have at any point in time, shout them out either over your microphone or throw them in the chat. I do get sort of tunnel vision into my code editor, which is on a separate screen from where I keep the chat window. And I might not see something thrown into the chat right away, but I promise I look at it occasionally and we'll get to it. If it's not right away, I'm not ignoring you. That's just why. So no method error. So let's create the method. And we're looking for song.create. So we want to create this class level method. And we should get a new error here. Okay. Instantiates and saves the song, and it returns the new song that was created. So expecting song.create. Expect the song that's created to be a song, so from that class, and then expect song.all to include the song that we just created. So thoughts? How should we start and get through this method? Use instantiate. What code? How would you use that?
So would you have to create the instantiate method before telling it to create?
So no, we don't have to create the. I believe you mean initialize.
Yeah. I just mean what I meant was if you don't have an initializer, will it know that it's creating a song?
So yes, and that's because we're in our class method. So if we look at this, this is going to be, that's how this is going to be called. So
okay, cool.
yeah, whatever we do in here, it's going to know that it's happening on this class. And then
but until you have
continue.
Sorry. But if you don't have any code in the method, no object is created. Right? Okay.
So we're seeing we have nil right now.
So in that case, I would just say put anything in the method. And that's my best guess, but that's why I'm here.
I got you. So create is something at this point, we are doing things that eventually are available to us in Rails through active record and stuff. So if you've seen things like song.create, it's because there's a create method underneath the hood given to us. So in this lab, we don't have those, and we're kind of creating those from scratch. And what we're doing is through these labs, recreating methods that are provided to us later on in the curriculum by Rails or parts of Rails. And that's where we really are showing the building blocks of what's happening underneath the hood with the framework. So what we're looking for, and if we put anything in here.
Is it new?
Yes.
Would that work? Okay, good. All right.
So we are looking for new.
Okay.
It could stay as song, but as self. We do want new here. And let's see what we get with new. Okay, expected song.all to include song. So there's always a context where a built-in method like new is going to be called. So right now it's being called on self implicitly. We just don't see it there. So if we want to save the song, we're going to need to set this to a variable. So we can say song equals new. I believe that is all that we need. Although self.new is a more typical pattern. I honestly want to see what happens here. Is that going to return the song? Yeah. So you could have song equals new. The pattern is typically self.new, and I think is there to remind us what we're calling new on. And then, what did it say? Instantiates. So this is where it's instantiating with new and saves the song. So we have our save here, which is going to push whatever it is into this edit all. So we'll say, what are we doing? Song.save. And that should instantiate it on this line. Call the save method here, just save it on this line. that says returns the new song that was created. So we have to return it here because save isn't going to return it for us.
So Seth, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The save method is an instance method, correct? So within the save method, we're saving to all, but we're not saving to at all. What is the difference? We're saving to self.class.all in the save method.
Yes. So we're saving to the object, which in save self is the object, but then we're stepping up and calling the class method all there.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got it. Okay.
And then, yeah, so we are calling this class method from this instance method.
Would it have been possible to save? I mean, I know that the test wasn't written that way for us to do that, but would it have been possible in the real world to save into the self.all method? Sort of.
Wait, I'm not sure what you're asking. Like from where?
The instance variable or the instance method, the self.class.all, would it have been possible to include the save method within the self.all method? So that when we're, cataloging no, because the self.all is just for showing, just for reading. Got it. Okay, never mind. I answered my own question.
Okay. Cool. So this should pass our first test. Awesome. So now we're going to start adding some properties here. So we're going to look for new by name. Self new by name with a name variable. And because we have this accessor here, that was weird, it underlined for a second. Oh. I don't know what that means. I clicked it and nothing happened. Because we have this accessor here, we can write the name without having a method to a writer created for that name. So the pattern is going to be similar, where it's saying instantiate a song with a name property. So first we have to instantiate the song, and then we have to set the name. So dot name equals name, and then return the song, I believe. And some of these methods are broken down a little bit more than they need to be, I think, or could be, but they would serve their specific purposes in other code that would call this class. But just looking at it, we have a new by name, and and after this, we're going to do a creates by name. So that passes that one. And I'm going to come back to asking you guys questions, but these next two methods are, I think, relatively straightforward. They're following the same pattern as the first one, just kind of mixing it up how it happens. So we have create by name, which once again will instantiate a new song by name. So song.name equals name. And then also save it. Song.save and return the song. So we've created one and saved it. We've created one with a name and not saved it. Then we've created it with a name and saved it all together. And that should pass. Okay. So our next method, find by name. Oh, self. These are class methods. So we have a whole bunch of songs that we've made, and now we want to call song.findByName and look in this array here for songs that match that name. So what method could we use here? We know that we're going to be dealing with add@all, which is an array of objects.
I use the detect method.
So detect, and I see, Lindsay, you mentioned include. Include will work, however, this specific test is looking for a return of the object. So since we're searching by name, we might find something that includes that name, but we need to get the whole song object back out of that array. So we're going to have, let's see, yeah, finding.py. If we look at add@all, we see a bunch of song objects. And then include is going to give us a true false. But what we want to get is one of these objects out of what we're doing. So if we look at RubyDoc, and I don't know what version this is in. I think 2.3.1 is what we're working with. Go to, so this is my workflow that I use for a long time. Go to rubydoc.org, go to your version of Ruby that you're using. Down here we have methods, and there's a filter here, but I would always just kind of scroll until I found something that had in parentheses the type of object I was working with. Hit array, and then it took me to whatever method that was on at the time. So scroll up to the top, and it has all the methods that we can call on that type of object. And just scroll through. I would always look and see if there was something that by name made sense. Detect is under enum, I think. So we can go look at that. And we have these as well. We have detect. And detect is equivalent to find. So detect and find do the same exact thing. If we go to the find documentation down here, it's the same exact thing. Oh, it says it right here in yellow. It didn't used to say that. Detect and find are two names for the same method. It looks exactly the same except detect says find. So this is going to tell us that it returns the first for which block is not false, so which is true. So when it finds that first match, it's going to return it. So it's going to do everything that we need in one method for us. So detect or find. And we're looking for the name. So we'll have our block here. If we follow the pattern, we see we pass the iteration into the block. So let's say song. It's going to be each individual song object. We're going to be passing these songs in one by one, song objects. Then we're going to say song.name equals name. So the first one, where the name that we pass into the method matches the song name, we're going to grab that element from the array and return it. And let's see if that does what we need. It did. Cool. So now we have find or create by name. And this one is interesting because it tells us specifically invokes find by name and create by name instead of repeating code. So we're supposed to use our find by name and our create by name methods to create this find or create by name class level method. Or create by name and okay. How did one of you out there solve this one? Get a new error.
So I just did an if statement, and I said if self.find by name with the name as the argument, and I just returned, or not returned, but I didn't use the return keyword, but I just said self.find by name as the return value, yeah. With the name argument, yeah. Else self.create by name, because we either want to find it, and if it's not there, then we have to create it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see. All right, so that passes. Invokes find by name and create by name instead of repeating code. Turns the existing song object, doesn't create a new one, will provide the title of the existing song, creates a new song object with the provided title if one doesn't already exist. So this does exactly what we need, and it works. Now, we notice that we have this code right here that's repeating itself. And we're checking if something is true, and if it's true, we're going to do the same exact thing. And then our else is pretty straightforward as well. So there's a way to refactor this to make it a little bit cleaner and not be repetitive at all. So I'm going to keep this here and just comment it out and show another way of writing this same thing. So we want to think about the first thing that we want to do. So if find by name comes back true, then we want to do this. Otherwise, we always want to do this other thing. So instead of using an if-else statement in this instance, because the if's truthy parameter or evaluator is going to be the same as what we do, we can just create an or statement here and put create by name on the right side of the or. Because if this is true, it's already returning the value that we need, and this will stop. We're not going to evaluate the right side of the or. If this comes back false, because there isn't a name, it's not, our detect is going to return nil, I believe, if it doesn't get anything, then it's going to continue on past to the right side of the or. And we're going to do our other class method, create by name. And that still works. And these are patterns that everybody picks up over time from seeing them. And just, I don't think they're obvious at all. We see things and we're like, okay, we see that this is repeating. And we know that, repeating things isn't the best way, but it doesn't jump out at us how to refactor these things. So, yeah, that's one way, another way of doing it. I'm sure there's others as well. Cool. Good job. What's next? These are all the tests for that. Okay, alphabetical. Self.alphabetical. This one isn't going to take an instance.
So one last question before we move on to the next method.
Oh, yeah.
So when we are in the class method, so I'm still having trouble with the self, whether in the class method or the instance method or whatever. But the self.find is referring to the instance of the song, correct? So it is referring to the small s song, or is it referring to the class? We're not finding the class, we're finding the instance of the song by the name, correct?
Correct, but this self is referring to the class, and it's referring to the class because it's inside of a class method.
So we always know, as long as we're in the class method, we are always referring to the class. But we are creating find or create by name. We are creating what? We're creating a single instance of the song. We're not creating the class.
Mm-hmm. So if we were, so this is, we'd have to trace this back. So if we said self.create by name, we get here. We're saying, okay, self.create by name. This means we're calling this create by name class method, because self is the class and this is create by name. So we go to the create by name method, the class method. So we come here and we say, okay, we've passed the name from here to here to here. So now when we look at this method, we see that we're creating a song.new, which is going to end up being an instance of the song.
Oh, I see. Okay. I got it. Okay.
And self, we use self to allow us the flexibility of, if we wanted to change this to something else soon, everything will still work. As opposed to if we used song everywhere, which we could, these could all be song, then refactoring would become more challenging in the end if something needed to change for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So self does, offer another level of complexity, but it allows for a lot more flexibility in the end.
Got it. Thank you. Now I get it. Now that you showed that example, I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here for learning. And so ask the questions. Okay. Returns all the song instances in alphabetical order by song name. So let's see. Let's talk about anything else. Let's see. New failure. Okay. Expected. How are we doing? We're doing good. We've got 4 methods left. I think the last one is pretty straightforward. 2 that get a little, or I guess 1 is new and 1 is a create, so that's just an extra step. So the next one is a little bit beefy, but I think we got time to really step through them. So who wants to take a shot at this one? Self.alphabetical. Oh, I see some code in there. In the chat from Lindsay. Add all dot each dot name dot sort. And we can step through this also. A B A dot name B dot name. Okay, so we're going to the array that contains all the song objects and iterate through it and grab the name, sort on
You know,
it.
I should have just put. Sorry,
Oh,
I
keep
should
on.
have just put all. Should have just put all dot sort. But is sort a destructive method?
Let's see. I think it is.
Okay, because I kind of forgot that I could just say. Oh, and the spaceship operator isn't there either. I don't know how I did that. So there should be a spaceship operator between a.name and b.name.
So we can't call
And
all on this.
get rid of the. Oh no, just like calling sort
Oh,
on the array.
like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then the spaceship operator between a.name and b.name.
Syntax error.
So there should be another arrow on the back of the spaceship operator, right?
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. For both ways. Oh yeah, that did it. And this one being like this.
Yeah, that looks a little better.
Yeah, so we go through and sort, and we're telling Ruby to sort by name here. We're saying the current one versus the next one, I believe, and comparing them and putting them in the correct order. And we work our way through the array, and it sorts it for us. Sort. Another way, which is very similar, is to use sort by. And in this way, we don't have this comparator in here. We're just going to tell it which one of these values we want to sort by. So in this instance, we would say song and then song.name. So we say, sort by is still going to iterate. So the individual instance is a song. Then we tell it, okay, sort by the song.name. So this is pretty much just a shorthand for what's going on here. Because we see we're comparing the same property. This is just another way to do it. It should still pass. It does. With a different method. So I know remembering the sort can be hard. I've had to look it up a few times in different languages with the comparator, the A and the B, and walking through an array or an object or a collection of things and sorting them. So in Ruby, we have this sort by, which is really a nice method that all we need to know is the property. And we pass sort by the property, and it goes through all of them and calls that property and sorts them. Yeah, I would think it's easier to remember in the end than the spaceship and everything else, and having two parameters or two iterators and such. All right. New from file name with a file name passed in. Oh, I forgot. There's like, I think this README talks about all these things. Yeah, every method. Sorry. It'll be useful for this one. Build a class constructor that accepts a file name in the format of artist name, song name, or artist name space dash space song name dot mp3. Here's an example of one that would come in as a string. Given the song.new from file name with the string passed in, the constructor should return a new song instance with the song name set to blank space and the artist name set to Taylor Swift. The file name input sent to song.new from file name in the format of artist name dash song title .mp3 must be parsed for the relevant components. Separate the artist from the rest of the data based on the space dash space delimiter. Don't forget that when you parse the song name, you have to remove the .mp3 part of the string. Okay. So we do have, as we saw before, a couple accessors. So the artist name is already taken care of for us. So we'll be able to set the name and the artist name without any issues. We just have to go through the parsing here. So thoughts on that and how to approach this problem?
So the way I did this seems kind of long. I told it to slice the string from 0 to the length -4. And then I said split, space, dash space. And I said, I put it in an array, and I said array 0 equals artist and array 1 equals song name. But I'm sure there's a faster way to do all that.
I'm saying something like this.
Yeah, I think I said slice from to file name dot length -4. Yeah, like that though. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at, we'll throw a pry here and play around with some stuff for a few minutes. So if we did this, nice, works. Slice. Okay, so you're chopping off the last 4. I see what you're doing from the end and then splitting it. And really, any way that we solve this is going to be something along these lines. Or buckets, split, file name might be more verbose. Like we could also do equals file name dot chomp, which is basically going to take off the end whatever we tell it. But it's pretty much doing this slice in a different format. So it's under the hood, it's doing a slice taking off the last 4. It's not, it doesn't care what this string is. It's not actually going to match those characters. It's just taking those off the end. Well, I guess it is going to match those characters for chomp. So that can be useful. Although it's probably in the end more expensive if this was, going to have to import millions of files. Slice is probably going to be more performant in the end. But chomp is going to only grab that and get rid of it. And I think it's only off of the end. Go back. Look up chump for a string. Returns it, moved. Returns a new string with a given record separator removed from the end of the string if it's present. It'll also remove carriage return characters. And all trailing new lines. Huh, I didn't know about that. Okay, well, that's just another thing that we could use. We could call chop 4 times on it, because chop will take off the last character. But yeah, there's many different ways to accomplish this. I don't think any of them are more quote unquote right than the other. Like I said, that might just be fun to have in your code. And then split. And they're all going to accomplish the same thing. Because we know that we have a static file name, really this match doesn't gain us anything more than doing these other things. So let's go with chop, 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 chop. Chop, 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 yeah. Let's make sure this actually does what I think it does. Yeah, it works like that. That's cool. So now we have an array where the first element is the artist and the second element is the song. So as we saw, up here, we can just call .name and .artist name to set those properties. But first, we need a song object. We only have an array right now, so we can say song equals song.new. We're following a pattern that has been established in this lab now. Song.name equals, and which one is the name? Name, we're in the song class, so the name is the name of the song, which will be second. So split file name, 1 for the second element, and song.artist name equals split file name 0. And we need to return it. I believe that will fulfill this test. Yes. Now we have create from file name, which is going to be very similar to when we did new from, or new by name and create by name. We added in one more step. That's what we're going to do here. And that should do it. Then our last method of the evening, self.destroy all. This can be accomplished many different ways. We can do self.all.clear. We can just set that to an empty array We could call that variable directly. I think all three of those work just fine in this case. We can test them real quick. No. Did you mean? Oh, I'm missing an R. Destroy. There we go. So that one's good. That one's good. That one's good too. So many different ways to empty something out. None better or worse than the other. Like I said before, using something like self is going to allow us to change this edit all variable in the future and not have to worry about where else that's used except in a place like here. And even this, I guess, could be self.all. So you can refactor it all out except for this right here. This is the only place where you might have to make a change. You'd have to change this in two places right here. And you could change its name to something else. I think we could probably do that for all of these. And allow for better this. Oh, you don't want to do that. Self.new on these and really make the code more resilient in the future and less bug prone. This should all still be working. Yep. So now the only place that we're using the variable is in this one method and where it's set. So if we ever needed to change that, we could change it in two spots and that would be the only place that we'd have to worry about it. It wouldn't raise any new bugs anywhere. And we can do that, I guess. Every song. We should have no, well, some of these might fail if they're looking specifically at that array. No, it doesn't look like any of them are. They just say it here in the test. Yeah. So we've made our code more resilient, less bug prone in the end by utilizing all while also building all these class level methods. So tonight we've seen a few different things, but the context of self and how it's scoped inside of these methods. So if it's a class level method, we're talking about the class here. And if it's an instance level method, it'll be talking about the instance that it's working on. And we looked at using this or instead of a repetitive if statement. We saw detect and find. Looked at that some. We looked at Ruby docs and saw sort by instead of sort. We saw slicing and chomping and chopping as different ways to get characters off the end of a string. And multiple different ways to empty out an array. Any other questions I can answer this evening? Awesome. If there aren't any other questions at this point, thanks so much for coming out.